Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
All right. With that, we'll move on, Joy, to your segment here, and was hoping just that you could give us a little bit of your sense of how LocalU Advanced went earlier this week, and maybe highlight some of your favorite takeaways.
Yeah, so the event was on Tuesday, and I think the on-demand videos are up now for anybody that missed it. It was good. It was, I'm excited to say that it was our last virtual event for a while, because following this one, we're going to be going back to in-person events. Starting in July 28th, we're going to be in Denver. So that's really exciting because we all like seeing people. But as far as the virtual event on Tuesday went, I can give you a few highlights from the presentation I did. So I talked a lot about spam, and we're coming out with a study that'll be released, I think, on Tuesday or Monday of next week. Basically just looking at 16 different verticals over the course of the last 4 years to see, is like Google getting any better at this? Is spam still a problem? And the answer really varied a lot based on the industry. So like I highlighted a few of them. Like in the garage door industry, it's getting worse, not better. In the personal injury lawyer industry, Google has tackled most of the spam pretty well, shockingly. So we used to see, there was like some graphs and stuff showing that they had like hundreds of fake listings if you had looked like a year or two ago, and now those are pretty much down to almost nothing, which is great. And then keyword stuffing, again, varies a lot based on the industry, still a pretty big problem in some industries. But overall, the consensus is that, like, if you work in local SEO, if you are in an industry that has a decent amount of spam, that it's definitely something that you still need to pay attention to.
I thought. Hold it. Google said only 1% of their list. There was only 1% bad data in there. They just said this 2 weeks ago. You're telling me, Joy, that's not the case in some verticals.
Well, the thing is, like, you say this all the time, Mike. They're looking at a high-level view, and like, there's no spam in hotels. There's no spam in restaurants. Like, there's certain industries where it doesn't make any sense to spam. But like, if you look at garage door repair over the 4 years that we were collecting all these listings, I think it was 87% of them were fake. Like, insane. So definitely not 1% if you're in an industry like that.
Right.
Joy, I thought
churches don't spam either.
I thought one of the most interesting takeaways from your session was, if you are an agency who is offering spam reporting as part of your package, and I thought another interesting takeaway was that you advise agencies not to offer it as a line item, that it's sort of only on an as-needed basis, but that in some cases, if you got a listing taken down, what Google did was actually merge it with another listing that was operated by the same business or the same network, and that listing ranked better after the spam takedown. So yeah. It can be a bit of a double-edged sword, which was fascinating. So
yeah, thanks Google for that.
Yeah.
Curtis Boyd's session also, I want to say, did like phenomenal. Got so many questions, so much interaction, and like even the survey responses we got after, like, you just got stellar feedback. I think what was so cool about his study, and I hope that he does publish it, he looked at 1,000 different review takedown requests and looked at, both reporting positive reviews, like fake reviews that are positive, along with fake negative reviews, and just showed some of the data around that. And not surprisingly, but like the one category of reviews that they had the hardest time getting rid of were like false experiences, where somebody comes and either exaggerates the truth or lies about their experience, like to try and, coerce the business into getting something, or they're, trying to kind of use it as a weapon. Those are some of the most challenging reviews to get Google to remove. And that, I would say that's true based on my experience, but thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I was particularly impressed when he showed a couple of screenshots of his transparency reports that are generated, essentially auditing the veracity or falsity of a given business's reviews. And there was a lot of interest in the Q&A from agencies using that both in their day-to-day processes, as well as potentially a way to get business from SMBs, where they can show, hey, your competitors are getting these spammy reviews, and this is something that we can actually help you solve or help you fight. So that seemed to have a lot of interest from the agencies in attendance.
Yeah, his tool is quite fantastic. We used it quite a bit, and like he does a better job than Google does at detecting fake reviews. I want to say he does a better job than Yelp, because I think Yelp is too aggressive. Right. So it's kind of fascinating. This like third-party tool is doing better than some of these tech giants, you know? But
which was one of my questions to him, but yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say that there are certain things in reviews that we've identified as a group years ago, probably 5 years ago, the pattern of repeating users, ABC, CBD, BCD, with that kind of repeating pattern over and over and over again. We told Google about 5 years ago, and they're only now talking about possibly, maybe solving that problem, which is such a simple problem to solve that Curtis has solved. It's not a complicated problem. So it's just, part of it is, Joy, they just don't want to.
Yeah, they don't care. Like, it's just, I mean, there's no incentive for them to, right? So,
yep.
Right.
Yeah. And then the final session that I think I'll highlight was the Vicinity Panel. We had a lot of questions and discussion around that as well. Mm-hmm. So something that I feel like is not well known is that there was a major rollback in March. So it was late March, I think around the 23rd, but we did see some changes before then. So it's not like one of those updates where it's a single day, it like kind of rolled out. But like a lot of stuff got reverted back. Mm-hmm. Like we saw, especially the keyword rich business name thing. So we saw all these businesses that had keyword-rich business names that got just hammered by the Vicinity update. Like we actually had a client who has a really short name, three words, but it just so happens to include his main category. And like his leads dropped in half after the Vicinity updates. It wasn't just rankings, like it really killed his business. And then we saw in March, like leads basically rebound to like what they were before. So I think that piece, a lot of people may have overlooked, like it didn't get as much attention as the initial update did, but I was happy about it because I thought the initial update was a little too aggressive in that nature.
So bottom line on that though, is there's still some benefit, regardless of which way this is tilting, to creating a business name that includes what you do and where you do it.
Yeah, the big thing that Colin said is the takeaway that I think like people should just keep in mind is what got rolled back versus what didn't. We saw there's a huge difference between like an explicit keyword where you have like personal injury lawyer Dallas versus just personal injury lawyer. The Vicinity update kind of really went after the personal injury lawyer, the implicit version, and cut your radius a lot, like quite a bit. That didn't come back at all. But what we did see was for more of the explicit terms, like that having the keywords in your name definitely is helping more than it was 3 weeks ago.
One thing I didn't.
And even before 3 weeks ago, it wasn't within whatever radius it was still helping within that more limited radius. Yeah. Right. So it still is a helpful thing, which is amazing to me that Google still ranks based on.
There was some weird filtering going on that Yan was talking about. So we had a theory that basically if there was too many businesses with the same name, that Google was filtering based on that. And Yan was doing all kinds of testing on this, but that seems to have gotten rolled back as well. So whatever that was going on, which is probably a good thing because I'm like, that's dangerous. It's kind of hard to know what to do if you're a business that has a similar name to a competitor. Yeah.
One thing I didn't bring up, because there were, as you said, Joyce, so many questions, so I didn't want to sort of take moderator privilege and eat up that time. But it occurs to me that the impact being limited to implicit geo modifiers as opposed to explicit, I wonder how much of that is Google having trained all of us that if we're actually in a city, we don't need to include the geo modifier, and Google sort of knows that we're looking for something closer, whereas the explicit term might be done by somebody from outside the city who really does want to see the larger landscape of businesses. And I wonder, there's probably no way to really gate, like Google obviously reports, 600% increase in near me terms or whatever. I don't think we've seen anything, just, hard data around how geo modifiers have evolved, but I would guess that they've dropped pretty significantly over time. And maybe that is part of the logic behind this update.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to look at.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.